Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, to this subscriber replay. This was sent in by AndyDo37140_1. I'm just going to call him Andy for short. Makes my life a lot easier.
Let's go.
This is a tier 10 game. We're here on Fisherman's Bay. Is it Fisherman's Village? I can never remember what it's called. Fisherman's Bay. And Andy is driving the M40/M43 American Tier 8 artillery piece, the self-propelled gun. Now, I've shown games from the tier 4, 5 and 6 American artillery before. Now this is the tier 8 American artillery piece, and at some point I'll be able to show you the tier 7 to boot. Now the fact that this is a tier 10 game kind of in a way works in Andy's favour, because, well, frankly, artillery, generally speaking, doesn't really care what tier target it's shooting at. You know, you're lobbing massive caliber HE shells at people. I mean, this is a 203mm gun that does 1,850 damage with 102 penetration with the HE rounds. I mean, yeah. AP rounds, if you want to fire them, you're doing 1,450 damage with 241 pen, and Andy has 2 there. I presume for close encounters of the, well, derping kind. Anyway. So, because artillery doesn't really care what tier target is shooting at, I mean, you're just lobbing large caliber HE rounds at people, this means that if you manage to damage people who are a higher tier than you, of course, the game gives you an experience multiplier. And so you can rack up more experience for shooting higher tier targets, basically. And so the fact that this is a tier 10 game, in that sense, works in Andy's favour. He's perfectly capable of damaging and doing a lot of pain to these guys, and all a lot of the time while getting an experience multiplier that will be greater than 1. I mean, the lowest tier targets he has to shoot at are the same tier as him. There are no tier 7 light tanks in this game. Anyway, Andy's team have gotten off to a fairly good start by nailing... is that a light tank? Yep. Oh no, it was the Type 61 on the enemy team, and... oh, yeah, that was painful. Managed to slap that IS-3 in the face, who subsequently dies for rather a large amount of damage. And it was the AMX 1390 doing the spotting, and so I imagine he's fairly happy to to have that IS-3 receive a lot of pain to the face. Now, of course, this is artillery. I mean, this is going to be one of those rare games where your shots, generally speaking, actually go where you aim them. The thing with artillery is that it's very RNG based. You can have the best aimed shots in the world and they go nowhere near where you want them, and you can take a complete snapshot and nail the target in question.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
Now that shot was aimed by Andy, but the fact that the shot went roughly where he wanted it to go was not down to Andy per se, it was just luck. That's the thing with artillery. There is quite a lot of luck involved, but when you do get that little bit of luck go with you, you can be a great asset to your team. As you can see there, so far Andy has put a lot of damage into an IS-3 and killed an E-75. Now with artillery, because it has low DPM, low effective DPM, it means that you do need the game to drag on for quite a long time in order to get a decent result out of it. If it's a 3-minute ruffle stomp, you struggle to have much of an impact on the game. So, here's an AMX 5100. It looks like he might be AFK, and so you could argue that shooting at him tactically, it's perhaps not the best use of your rounds, especially as this artillery piece doesn't appear to carry that much ammunition. But nonetheless, it was a stationary target, and Andy went for him. Now, one thing I would say is, generally speaking, in artillery you want to be relocating after every shot if you reasonably can, especially in higher tier artillery, so Andy could perhaps be making a bit more use of his mobility just to slightly relocate so that the enemy artillery can't easily counter-battery him. But, not to worry too much. AMX 1390 and an E50 have gone for this Jagdtiger, and now Andy has a rear shot into this Jagdtiger, which kills him. They lose their friendly 1390, but there we go. So that's 2 kills for Andy in his M40, M43. So far, putting damage into a tier 8, or possibly a pair of tier 8s, depending on whether he did any damage to that 5100, and killing a pair of tier 9s. Hasn't had to shoot any of the tier 10s so far. Now, you may or may not have noticed that the town is kind of not looking quite so hot. They've basically lost the town. And if you look at the tier of tanks left on each team, the enemy team has 3 of their top tiers left. Friendly team only have 1, that E50M, who's currently at K2. So this is still a very close game. I mean, you could judge from the scoreline 8-8 and you'd judge it were close. But it really is a very close game indeed. E100, well, the only tank that's holding this E100 back is the Lerva. Tier 8 versus a Tier 10, yeah, the Lerva could do with some assistance here. So, Andy is actually, from his position, able to shoot into the town. He's not able to shoot everywhere into the town, but he is able to put shots into the town. And lining up a shot on this Lerva. And that hit. Ouch. That's going to do a lot of damage. Andy's trying to get the friendly T95 to come and give them a hand versus the enemy team members who are pushing out from the town. Now, part of me was actually expecting that round on the Lerva to penetrate and kill him. You know, considering the amount of health he had left and the amount of damage these shells do. But I guess it's entirely possible that shell actually hit. For example, the tracks or something exploded on the tracks, and so wasn't actually a proper penetration. Now we can see the Object 263 and the AMX, well, the Object 263 has gone back to the other end of the town to try and, this is the enemy Object 263, to try and do something about the friendly medium tanks who have pushed through the enemy base. But Andy is staying aimed up at the north end of the town, because if that E100 and that Lerva and whoever else was over there decide to push out from the town, that could be rather awkward. Object 263 dies, but the enemy 50B nails the friendly E50M. Can Andy get a shot on this 50B? However, if he can, that would be hilarious. The 50B's armor is terrible, especially from the side and rear. But Andy immediately sees there's actually an E100 moving on his position and the position of the other friendly artillery piece, the GW Tiger P. And so he's switching his attention to that guy. And when the guy pops up, he's going to take a whole world of pain to the face. There he is. E100 takes out the GW Tiger P. Andy was expecting him to have moved a little bit further before he was spotted. And has this guy got a spore liner? Oh no, he's disappeared. Hopefully that shot did some damage. And now the scoreline is 11-11. And there's nothing between... Oh my word, there's the E100. Looks like his shell did do some damage, and there's nothing between Andy and the enemy E100. So he slightly relocates, I think, to get a better shot on the enemy E100. The E100 is just driving across the open now. He's got a T95 on one side, he's got Andy's artillery piece on the other. That looked like a round from the T95 that went into the E100. Andy's almost loaded. And, oh, if that E100 had kept going, he'd have been fine, because Andy can't actually shoot any further over. But as it is, he doesn't. And Andy finishes the guy off. AMX 50B and Lerva are the only tanks left on the enemy team. So, oh no, 50B just went down. That just leaves the Lerva on the enemy team, and he's facing off against a T54, T95, SU-101, and of course Andy's M40, M43 artillery piece. Now the friendly AMX 3090 is trying to talk to Andy. There's a little bit of I think a miscommunication there. I don't think I don't believe that English is Andy's first language, which doesn't help. But nonetheless, it's just this Lerva, who was of course last spotted at the northern end of the village, and he just killed the friendly T54. So Andy is concentrating on where he thinks the guy is going to be, up in this corner. So hopefully he can pre-aim for this guy, pretty much, and do the chap an awful lot of damage. There he is. Oh, T95 polishes him off. Ah well, never mind. That was still a very nice result for Andy. Let's go and take a look at the post-battle results and see how well he did. So that ended up for Andy being an ace tanker, bruiser, I think that's a Gauze medal? Yep, for doing 10 times your own health in damage, and a high caliber award. 4,711 damage, tier 8, tier 10 game. 3 kills and 1,135 base experience with those 2 awards. Easily the highest damage count on either team, and the friendly T-54 also played a good game with 10,050 base experience. 7 shots fired, 5 hits, 5 pens, and 3 splash damage. Most of that damage from a distance of more than 300 meters. The only shot I think that wasn't was the killing shot on the E100. Damaged 6 enemy vehicles, of which he killed 3. And perhaps slightly surprisingly, well, I was going to say surprisingly, because those shots, the ones he fired, basically did damage, it means that Andy actually made a profit on that game. Artillery is not usually very profitable, but in that particular instance, Andy made a profit of just shy of 20,000 credits, even with a standard account. So, thank you very much, Andy, for sending that game in. Another American artillery piece that I could show. I hope you guys enjoyed that game. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. If you're particularly interested in artillery, I do have an artillery guide. Either way, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.